Most of the stuff you guys remember, students usually remember the Indian stuff. One reason why I go through it kind of thoroughly is because I still think it's going to be out there. Guys, the first year they changed the AP exam to the new format, like 4 years ago, it's the first year that they had short answer questions. There were 4 of them, okay? One of those 4 questions was about Native Americans. Nationwide, everybody bombed it. I mean, we're talking about thermonuclear waste, okay? Everybody bombed it. And the reason is teachers didn't teach it. I was very proud that my kids did well on it because we teach it, okay? So again, that's one thing that we always know what's out there. A lot of teachers don't spend any time on Native Americans for some reason. And AP tells us year after year, don't ignore them, don't ignore them. But guys, if you're going along and you're pacing and you're falling behind, you got to cut something, Indians usually get cut. Okay? That's why we're proud of you guys this year because, guys, next week is your last test. After you get that last test, guys, you've covered the curriculum. You have read everything you need to know for the AP exam. Okay? And that's one reason why we do talk about Native Americans, because we're not going to cut it out. Because you know what's going to happen? The first time we cut something about Native Americans, what's going to be the DBQ?
Right.
Native Americans. Okay? So, we're going to go back over them. Okay? First of all, we've got to go all the way back to the 1600s. Back to colonial America. Long time ago. Okay? This is stuff that you know. Okay? So just trying to dredge up. And guys, I'll tell you something. You will see multiple choice questions about Native Americans. Count on it. When we start taking these mocks after next week's test and things, you'll see on every one of them. They're always on there, okay? So knowing a little bit will help you. First thing, Virginia, okay? When Jamestown's founded, the tribal group they come into contact with are the Powhatans. And they will fight 2 wars against the settlers at Jamestown. What's important to know about this is not the particulars of it. You don't need to know about John Smith and Pocahontas and all that stuff. That's a Disney thing, all right? What you do need to know is why they're fighting. Because while they're fighting, they're going to set a major precedent. They're going to set the precedent for Indian and white problems throughout until the end of the 19th century. Why are they fighting the Indians in Virginia? One word. Land. Guys, it's always land. Okay? The Indians had it, the English won it. That's it. This is the first violence that will be fought over land. Okay? That is something that will not end until Wounded Knee. So what's important to remember about this is they're fighting over land, okay? About this time, the Spanish explorer De Soto is exploring the southeastern United States. What's important about this is he introduces swine flu. De Soto is the reason if you live in the southeastern United States and the Carolinas and Georgia, all the barbecue you get is going to be pork. Okay, if you go to Virginia, then you're going to get this wonderful Virginia hams. You're not going to have any Texas steaks up there, which is one reason why I moved to Texas. Right. But everything, the pork is there because De Soto brought swine to feed his army. And swine are like rabbits. They procreate at a massive rate. So at one time, they were overrunning the entire southeastern United States. All right. At first, Indians wouldn't eat them. They were something alien and unusual, okay? And then the next thing you know, they were dying from them. So the swine flu is going to do to the southeastern United States what smallpox will do to Mexico and to South America, okay? So what you're looking at is in both areas here, the first result of European contact is going to be death. It's going to be death by disease. That's an important thing to remember. The first part of the Columbian Exchange is death. You guys have probably heard that there's evidence that people came to North America far, far earlier than Columbus. Okay, the Vikings, for example, came to Nova Scotia, places like that. It's true. When the Puritans landed at Massachusetts Bay, they discovered big piles of bones as they walked in. And what had happened is disease had ravaged all of those Indians throughout New England. So everywhere the English came into contact, either disease had been there or was going on there at the same time. So the first overreaching contact was disease. Okay? All right. New England. This is what I was just talking about. And you don't need to know the figures or anything. It's just the fact that there's a commonality here. Okay? You're going to have these problems in the southeast, which includes Virginia. Okay? This smallpox epidemic is going to kill 90%. That's an estimated number because obviously we don't know exactly. In the early 1600s, this is when the Puritans show up in Massachusetts Bay. So if you want to say with the trend of the relationship between Indians and whites, it doesn't get off to a good start. Guys, one thing to remember, I think I told you this the other day, when you're writing an essay about something like this, put yourself in their place. Try to write from the perspective of someone affected by this. If you're an Indian and you look around and everybody you know is falling dead, okay, and it's obvious something wrong because they have these huge pustulous marks on their face, okay, and you know it wasn't like that until those white people showed up. What type of attitude do you develop against the Europeans? You don't know that they're the reason of it. All you know is, I was healthy one day, they showed up, and we're all dead now. What's the common denominator? Okay? Think of it from that perspective. Try to gain ownership of that perspective because it makes your writing more persuasive. Okay? If you indicate that there was hatred or distrust or suspicion, fear of Europeans, you're absolutely right. Okay? So, when Indians come into contact with whites, there's always in the back of their mind, we heard the rumors, okay? Now let's see if they're true, okay? Guys, always remember this. The entire contact between Native Americans and whites, from 1607 at Jamestown till 1898 at Wounded Knee, it's been set by fear. Fear drove the whole thing. Indians are scared to death of white people. Because whenever the white man shows up, death is not far behind. Okay? Keep that trend in mind because that provides a context for all this stuff. Okay? Okay. We're going to talk about two wars that happened in New England. You may see them. You may see documents about these. Okay? The Pequot War and King Philip's War, both of these are wars between Puritans and Indians. So if you look at what you see so far, look at the commonalities here. You've got the English in Jamestown, you've got the English at Mass Bay, and when it comes to Indian relations, they both fighting wars against them. And that tells you something. That shows a trend. And then when you throw in the fear because of these epidemics and things, it makes perfect sense. One thing I do want you to note about this, okay? We're almost finished here, okay? King Philip's War. Do you remember going back to Mexico? And we have this thing called the encomiendas, and they wrote it to the missions, okay? The English adopted the mission system, okay? They called them praying towns. And all throughout Massachusetts, they were erecting praying towns, the Anglican Church was, to try to assimilate Indians. That's what caused King Philip's War. So King Philip's War is not as much over land as much as it is they are opposed to assimilation. That's important, okay? They don't want to be English. They don't want to be Anglican. They want to be left alone. Okay? And when the English come in and say, okay, abandon everything you've got, come to the praying town, we're going to teach you how to be English, we're going to teach you how to speak English, we're going to teach you to be Christian. Some people don't play that game. Okay? And this is why it's important. The mission system begot this. This will begot the reservations in the West. When whites tried to assimilate Indians, when they tried to make Indians something other than Indians, this is what happens. And guys, that's a trend, that's a commonality, okay? It will cross the Atlantic Ocean and go to the Philippines in 1901. This is how we will treat people on the other side of the earth. It's the only thing we've ever known. Okay? Okay, let's see. Let me get to that one, okay? The Ohio River Valley, that's where all the furs are. And the furs are there, which means the French are there. And of course, this is going to lead to the French and Indian War. Notice I've got this thing divided into regions. And that's important because as the United States comes together as a country, these regions will meld together, which means that the experience with Native Americans will also. Okay? When the war is over, Pontiac doesn't want to stop fighting. So to try to maintain the Indian presence in the Ohio River Valley, you're going to have Pontiac's Rebellion. To keep whites out of the Ohio River Valley, George III of England is going to say that the Appalachians are the western boundary. That's the proclamation of 1763. This is what you need to know about this. It's designed to separate whites and Indians. They don't want whites crossing the mountains over to the Ohio River Valley, and they don't want Indians crossing over the mountains into the eastern part. Okay? So this is designed as a barrier. It's designed as a barrier. It's kind of like the Ohio River Valley is a ninth grade campus. They're putting the Indians there to keep them away from the upperclassmen. Okay? Like K Park used to be. Okay? One more. Okay, this is the last one we're going to do. When George Washington leaves office in 1793, he writes this very famous thing called his farewell address. And we've talked about that, and we'll talk a little bit more, okay? We talked about him saying, stay out of European affairs, stay away from political parties, and stuff like this. But he also wrote what's called the circular letter to the Cherokees. Washington is very familiar with Indian relations. He knows they're not good. Okay? He knows that whites are sweeping into the colonies, and every time whites come into the colonies, usually Indians are going to die by the bucket load. Okay? They'll get pissed, they'll come back and attack the whites, and whites will die by the bucket load. Of all these Indian tribes, the most stable tribe of all are the Cherokee. Okay? So before he leaves, he is going to write a letter to the Cherokee, and pretty much this is what it says. Okay? Face the facts. The white man is here, he's not going anywhere. He is part of your life now. He's part of your future. The only question you have is, do I fight him or get along with it? Guys, this is a letter suggesting assimilation. And what Washington says is we want to send farmers down to teach you how to farm. We want to send people down to help you get along with the white man. Okay? So, the circular letter is going to suggest that the Cherokees adopt assimilation. That's what's important about it. And they will. Guys, the Cherokees will do exactly what Washington will say. And they're happy campers. Until Jackson gets elected. Dun, dun, dun. See you later. Guys, anybody got any questions?